Are you ready to master the backbone of modern applications? From low-level socket communication to high-level HTTP/2 requests, Java networking is a critical skill for any professional developer. In this video, we will cover Java networking practice questions, sockets and HTTP client certification prep. Master Java networking with this comprehensive practice test. We cover everything from Socket and ServerSocket to the modern Java HTTP client. HTTP 1. In this video, we dive deep into 30 comprehensive practice questions covering Java sockets, TCP, UDP, and the modern HTTP client API. This is designed to mirror the actual certification exam environment. Before we start, make sure to grab a pen and paper to track your score. Let's see if you can get a perfect 30 out of 30. Which class is used on the server side to listen for incoming client connections in a TCP-based application? Option A, Java.NET, Socket. Option B, Java.NET, ServerSocket. Option C, Java.NET, DatagramSocket. Option D, Java.NET, HTTP server. The correct answer is B. The ServerSocket class is specifically designed to wait for requests to come in over the network. It listens on a specific port, and when a connection request arrives, it performs the three-way TCP handshake and returns a socket object via the accept method to handle communication with the specific client. Java.NET Socket is used by the client to initiate the connection or by the server to talk to a specific client after acceptance. What happens when the accept method is called on a ServerSocket object? Option A. It immediately returns null if no client is connected. Option B. It starts a new thread to listen for connections. Option C. It blocks the execution of the current thread until a connection is made. Option D. It returns the IP address of the server. The correct answer is C. The accept method of ServerSocket is a blocking call. This means the execution of the program stops at that line and waits indefinitely, unless a timeout is set, until a client attempts to connect to the server's port. Once a connection is established, it returns a socket object and the code continues to the next line. In the Java HTTP Client API, Java.NET, HTTP, which object is used to configure settings like the HTTP version 1.1 or 2, and redirect policies? Option A, HTTP request. Option B, HTTP response. Option C, HTTP client. Option D, HTTP URLConnection. The correct answer is C. The HTTP client class acts as the central configuration point for sending requests. You use the HTTP client, new builder, to define global settings such as the preferred HTTP version, HTTP_1_1 or HTTP_2, whether to follow redirects, the connection timeout, and the authenticator. HTTP request focuses on the specific request details like URI and headers. Which of the following is true regarding DatagramSocket in Java? Option A. It requires a persistent connection before sending data. Option B. It guarantees that packets arrive in the correct order. Option C. It uses the UDP protocol for connectionless communication. Option D. It uses input streams and output streams to transfer data. The correct answer is C. DatagramSocket represents a connectionless socket for sending and receiving datagram packets using the User Datagram Protocol, UDP. Unlike TCP, Socket, UDP does not establish a persistent connection, does not guarantee delivery, and does not guarantee the order of packets. Instead of streams, it uses datagram packet objects. Which class in the Java.NET package is recommended for representing a resource identifier without necessarily implying a network connection protocol? Option A, Java.NET URL. Option B, Java.NET URI. Option C, Java.NET HTTP URL connection. Option D, Java.NET INET address. The correct answer is B. The URI, Uniform Resource Identifier, class is used for parsing and representing the components of a URI string. Unlike the URL class, URI does not provide methods to open a network connection. Like OpenStream, the URI class is strictly for identification and is more compliant with RFC standards than the older URL class. How does the HTTP client send an asynchronous request in Java? Option A, by calling the send method in a new thread. Option B, by using the sendAsync method, which returns a completable future. Option C, by setting the HTTP client to non-blocking mode. Option D, the HTTP client only supports synchronous requests. The correct answer is B. The modern HTTP client, introduced in Java 11, provides a sendAsync method. This method returns a completable future less than HTTP response less than t greater than, which allows the programmer to handle the response in a non-blocking way using functional callbacks, like then apply, or then accept, when the data eventually arrives. Which method in the INET address class is used to find the IP address of the local host? Option A, INET address, get by name, localhost. Option B, INET address, get localhost. Option C, INET address, get remote host. Option D, INET address, get all by name, null. The correct answer is B. The static method INET address, get localhost, returns the address of the local host. This is determined by looking up the name of the host from the system and then resolving that name into an INET address. What is the purpose of the setSoTimeout int timeout method on a socket object? Option A, it sets the maximum time the socket will wait for a connection to be established. Option B, it sets the amount of time the socket will linger before closing. Option C, it sets the timeout in milliseconds for blocking read operations. Option D, it determines the keep alive interval for the TCP connection. The correct answer is C. So_timeout, socket options timeout, specifies the amount of time in milliseconds that a read call on the socket's input stream will block. If the timeout expires before data is available, a Java.NET socket timeout exception is thrown. A timeout of 0 is interpreted as an infinite timeout. Which body handler should be used with HTTP client to discard the response body while still receiving the headers? Option A, body handlers of string. Option B, body handlers discarding. Option C, body handlers of byte array. Option D, body handlers nobody. The correct answer is B. HTTP response, body handlers, discarding, is a built-in handler that ignores the response body. This is useful when you only care about the status code or the response headers and want to avoid the memory overhead of processing the body content. When creating a datagram packet to receive data, what must be provided to the constructor? Option A. The IP address and port of the sender. Option B. A byte array buffer and the length of the buffer. Option C. An existing DatagramSocket instance. Option D. A URL string. The correct answer is B. To receive data via UDP, you must create an empty datagram packet that acts as a container. The constructor requires a byte array buffer, where the incoming data will be stored and the length of that buffer. The address and port fields of the packet will be automatically filled by the receive method once a packet arrives. Which method is used to get an input stream to read data from a URL object? Option A. URLOpenConnection. Get input stream. Option B. URLReadStream. Option C. URLConnect. Option D. URLGetContentStream. The correct answer is A. To read data from a URL, you typically call OpenConnection. To get a URL connection, or HTTP URL connection, object, and then call getInputStream on that object. Alternatively, the shortcut method URLOpenStream can be used, which is a shorthand for OpenConnection. GetInputStream. What is the primary difference between a half-close and a full-close in Java TCP sockets? Option A. Half-close terminates the connection for both reading and writing. Option B. Half-close allows a socket to stop sending data while still being able to receive it. Option C. Full-close is only used for UDP sockets. Option D. Half-close is performed using the socket disconnect method. The correct answer is B. In Java, you can perform a half-close using socket shutdown output. This sends a fin packet to the peer, indicating that this side has no more data to send, but it keeps the input stream open so the application can still receive data from the other side. Calling socket close performs a full close, shutting down both streams and the connection. In the new HTTP client, which class is used to build the request itself, including method type and headers? Option A. HTTP client request. Option B. HTTP request. Option C. HTTP URI request. Option D. URL request. The correct answer is B. The HTTP request class is used to define the request you created using HTTP request new builder, where you can specify the URI, the HTTP method, get, post, etc., headers, and the body, via a body publisher. How do you configure a proxy for a specific HTTP client instance? Option A. By setting system properties like HTTP proxy host. Option B. By passing a proxy object to the HTTP client new builder proxy method. Option C. By adding a proxy header to every HTTP request. Option D. By using the proxy socket class. The correct answer is B. Unlike the older URLConnection, which relied heavily on global system properties, the modern HTTP client allows per-client configuration. You use the proxy method on the HTTP client builder and pass it a proxy selector, e.g., proxy selector of new inet socket address proxy.example.com 8080. Which exception is typically thrown when a program tries to bind a server socket to a port that is already in use? Option A, Java.NET Socket Timeout Exception. Option B, Java.NET Bind Exception. Option C, Java.NET Connect Exception. Option D, Java.NET Unknown Host Exception. The correct answer is B. A bind exception occurs when an application attempts to bind a socket to a local address or port that is already assigned to another process, or if the address is not valid for the local machine. This is a subclass of socket exception. What is the role of the flush method when using a buffered writer with a socket's output stream? Option A, it closes the connection immediately. Option B, it forces any buffered bytes to be sent over the network. Option C, it clears the socket's internal receive buffer. Option D, it encrypts the data before sending. The correct answer is B. Buffered streams store data in a memory buffer to minimize the number of actual system calls. If you write data but don't fill the buffer, the data might stay in memory and not be sent. Calling flush forces the buffer to empty its contents into the underlying socket's output stream, ensuring the data is transmitted to the receiver. Which interface is responsible for converting high-level Java objects or strings into the byte stream sent in an HTTP request body? Option A, body handler. Option B, body subscriber. Option C, body publisher. Option D, body converter. The correct answer is C. HTTP request body publisher is responsible for converting the request data, like a string, file, or byte array, into a flow of byte buffers that the HTTP client can send. Conversely, body handler, body subscriber are used for the response. Which of these represents a loopback address in IPv4? Option A, 192.168.1.1. Option B, 0.0.0.0. Option C, 127.0.0.1. Option D, 255.255.255.255. The correct answer is C. 127.0.0.1 is the standard loopback address for IPv4. It allows a computer to communicate with itself. In Java, calling inet address, get loopback address, will return the appropriate loopback address for the system, either 127.0.0.1 or 1 for IPv6. What does the TCP_nodal socket option do when enabled? Option A, it enables Nagel's algorithm to improve network efficiency. Option B, it disables Nagel's algorithm to reduce latency for small packets. Option C, it increases the size of the receive buffer. Option D, it prevents the socket from timing out. The correct answer is B. Nagel's algorithm tries to conserve bandwidth by buffering small chunks of data and sending them in one larger packet. While efficient, it introduces latency, enabling TCP_no-delay. Setting it to true disables Nagel's algorithm, causing data to be sent immediately, which is critical for real-time applications. Which of the following features was introduced with the new Java HTTP client in Java 11 compared to the old HTTP URL connection? Option A. Support for HTTPS. Option B. Native support for HTTP2 and WebSockets. Option C. Support for basic authentication. Option D. Ability to send post requests. The correct answer is B. While the legacy HTTP URL connection supported basic HTTP, HTTPS, the modern Java.NET HTTP client was designed from the ground up to support HTTP2, including server push, WebSockets, and asynchronous non-blocking operations, which the old API lacked. If you need to send a post request using the legacy HTTP URL connection class, which method must you call? Option A. Connection, set method, post. Option B. Connection, set request method, post. Option C. Connection, set post, true. Option D. Connection, doPost. The correct answer is B. In HTTP URL connection, you change the HTTP verb get, post, put, delete, etc. by calling the set request method, string method. By default, the method is set to get. What is the maximum theoretical size of a UDP datagram packet in bytes? Option A, 1024. Option B, 65,535. Option C, unlimited. Option D, 4096. The correct answer is B. The total length of a UDP datagram, including header and data, is limited by the 16-bit length field in the UDP header. This allows for a maximum size of 65,535 bytes. However, the practical limit is often much lower due to the MTU, maximum transmission unit, of the underlying network layers. Which method is used to retrieve the port number on which a server socket is currently listening? Option A, get local port. Option B, get port. Option C, get remote port. Option D, get server port. The correct answer is A. For a server socket, get local port returns the port number that the server is bound to. Get port is generally used on a client socket to see the port number of the remote host it is connected to. When using HTTP client, how can you provide credentials for a site requiring basic authentication? Option A. By calling HTTP client, new builder, authenticator, with a Java.NET authenticator. Option B. By manually encoding the username, password in base64 and adding an authorization header. Option C. Both A and B are correct. Option D. Java HTTP client does not support basic authentication. The correct answer is C. Both methods work. The authenticator approach is cleaner and managed by the client automatically when it receives a 401 challenge. However, developers often manually add the authorization header with the basic less than base64 underscore string greater than value for simplicity or specific control. What is the purpose of the backlog parameter in the ServerSocket constructor? Option A. It defines the timeout for the server to shut down. Option B. It specifies the maximum number of pending connections the queue can hold. Option C. It sets the buffer size for incoming data. Option D. It limits the number of threads the server can create. The correct answer is B. The backlog parameter defines the maximum length of the queue for incoming connection requests. If a request arrives when the queue is full, the connection is refused. This allows the system to hold a few requests while the application is busy calling accept to handle the current ones. Which method is used to get the output stream of a socket object? Option A. Socket, write stream. Option B. Socket, get output stream. Option C. Socket, get sender. Option D. Socket, get writer. The correct answer is B. The get output stream method returns an output stream that allows the application to send bytes to the remote socket. You often wrap this in a print writer or data output stream for easier data handling. In the context of the HTTP client, what is a body handler? Option A. An object that manages the connection pool. Option B. A component that decides how to process the response body bytes. Option C. A class used to sign the request body. Option D. A utility for parsing JSON automatically. The correct answer is B. A body handler is a functional interface used to inspect the response status code and headers before deciding how to handle the response body, e.g., save to a file, convert to a string, or stream it. What does inet address, get by name, www.google.com, return? Option A. A string containing the IP address. Option B. An inet address object representing the host. Option C. A socket connection to Google. Option D. An array of all IP addresses associated with the host. The correct answer is B. The get by name string host method performs a DNS lookup and returns an inet address object for the host if the host has multiple IP addresses. It returns the first one found. To get all associated addresses, use getAll by name. Which of these is not a valid value for the redirect policy in HTTP client? Option A. HTTP client, redirect, always. Option B. HTTP client, redirect, never. Option C. HTTP client, redirect, normal. Option D. HTTP client, redirect, secure _only. The correct answer is D. The standard redirect policies in HTTP client are never, don't follow, always, follow all, and normal. Follow redirects except from HTTPS to HTTP. Secure _only is not a standard enum constant in this context. When you are finished with a socket, why is it important to call the close method? Option A. To release the associated file descriptor and local port. Option B. To trigger the garbage collector. Option C. To prevent the server from crashing. Option D. To speed up the network interface card. The correct answer is A. Sockets are system resources. If they are not closed, the operating system continues to hold the associated file descriptors and keeps the local port taken. Over time, failing to close sockets leads to resource leaks, eventually preventing the application from opening new connections. That concludes our 30-question deep dive into Java networking. How many did you get right? Let us know your score in the comments section. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more Java certification prep content. For the complete exam preparation suite and high-quality mock tests, check the link in the description below.